Hi, my name is Freddie, and today I want to provide you a tutorial of the Lightspeed risk tool. Essentially, the risk tool is a monitor that allows you to see on a near real-time basis your margin requirements, risk requirements, your balances, and your performance. So to begin with, to access the risk tool, you need to go to your Lightspeed portal. In the portal, you'll see the icon Research with a drop-down menu that will bring you to the risk tool. By clicking on the risk tool, it'll bring you right over to the risk monitor, or risk tool monitor, and you'll land on the home page. Next to you are here on the left-hand side, you'll notice that we have credit risk and market risk. The Lightspeed risk monitor is made up of two modules. The first one we're going to look at is credit risk, and credit risk is your margin calculations. So if we click on credit risk, it'll bring down margin monitor. You can click on it, and immediately it'll bring up what your requirement is on a real-time basis for each account that you have, or you can even utilize different strategies. But you'll notice that you have your account information, name of the account, and your start-of-day equity, sometimes called your net liquidating value of your account, which is essentially the long market value plus cash minus your short market value or short balances, your current P&L, and your current equity in the account. Your adjusted balance, this is simply the amount of credit or debit you have with your custodian. The OCC or TIMS requirement, so right now currently the TIMS requirement on this portfolio is $806,000. The house requirement, which is $967,000. So essentially this account would be in a margin call at this current point in time. You can see your long market value and your short market values. This is your equity values in the account, along with your long and short exposures. This is, you can think of it, this is adding the options to the portfolio. Think of it as your dollar delta. It shows you the true exposures. You have gross exposure, net exposure, and your market value, which is simply the difference between your long market value and your short market value. Now, again, you can customize this and move fields around any place that you want, sort it so that it's easy for you to read. Once you log off, it'll save all the column settings that you have. Also, you can turn on and adjust columns that you want to see or don't want to see. And it's easy to just click on a refresh button at any time if you've done a trade and it's in between calculations. But this will calculate automatically depending on your settings. Now let's look at the risk module. So the risk module is made up of three different components. You have your risk shocks, risk explorer, and Greeks page. On the risk shocks, again, a very customizable page showing you essentially the information we just looked at on the margin view. But here we're going to introduce 15%, 10% standard deviation shocks to the portfolio. So this essentially is a down 15 with a 50% volatility shock, while this is up 10% and no volatility shock. Again, you can add more columns, you can add more stresses, and you can actually design the stresses that you want. So instead of looking at just percents and standard deviations, you can come in and add additional shocks, stressing, underliers down 50% or your whole portfolio down 50%, 3 standard deviations with 1-day iterations, 5-day iterations. So essentially coming up with your underlying shocks, then you can lay on top of it or lay over your volatility shocks all the way up to 100%. And then the type of shock, whether you want to do it on a parallel basis, use a volatility adjusted shock, beta, or standard deviation. Simply add any one of the shocks and then close. And that calculation will now be added to your view. The other view that we want to show you is the Risk Explorer. This now basically breaks down and gets more granular into what we're seeing right now in the risk shocks. So in Risk Explorer, it's going to demonstrate which are these stocks that are contributing the most to the risk in this portfolio. You can come in and also add different scenarios and look at what it does and what stocks populate. Also below, we're going to give you default up 10, up 3, down 15 with vol shocks. But let's take a look at a plot of this portfolio that we already know is in a margin call. And you can see that this is it's not a good position, and for a risk manager, it'd be concerning, or a portfolio manager. So essentially, these are the only areas where the account would make money. So we look at a graphical representation from 0 to down 50 and up 50 with 50% vol shocks. Now, again, you can come in and look at each stock individually and see what that position looks like inside the portfolio. We can look at all the Greeks. We can look at the position. We can also run a graph of that of the particular position. And we can apply, Vega numbers. We can apply shock types to see what, again, one particular symbol or the portfolio looks on a plot. Along with the Risk Explorer comes the Greek page. With the Greek page, we're providing all of the Greeks inside the portfolio. Everything that you would expect to see with deltas and dollar deltas, Vega, Gamma, weighted Vega, Rho, Theta, performance, and your closing and price change. So again, giving you the ability to drill down and look at inventory and the Greeks associated with it, so you can have essentially a waterfall view or a rolled up view. And that is the end of the simulation, or the demo of the simulation. And I hope if you have any questions, please reach out to our customer service team so that we can come back and answer your questions for you. Thank you.